I want to show you how to edit just like SunnyV2. Create a new blank video. A blank video is just a placeholder so we can transfer it over to After Effects. Into the timeline, we're going to highlight it, and we're going to stretch it out to whatever length we want. I'm going to aim for the 30-second mark, and we're going to right click and click replace with After Effects composition. And we're going to go ahead and name it whatever you like. You guys can name your files whatever you like. I'm just going to name it sample. This is a sample clip that I want to show you guys how to create. As you guys can see, we have some revealing characters, and then we have the first character zooming in to a name reveal as well. And then it also transitioned into another standstill photo of the same person or character, whatever you want it to be. We're going to bring the money image into our clip, and then we're just going to fit it to the screen. There's several ways you can do this. I'm just going to type in a number or percentage of 400 to zoom in, and it's going to cover the entire section. Now, what I need to do here is add some blur to this, and the blur just creates some sort of foreground and background effect to it being in a distance. And we're going to also bring down the opacity, and that will just make it look like a background photo, kind of similar to the one that we saw in the SunnyV2 video. The next thing we're going to throw on top is our particles. You can get particles from basically anywhere. Two of the places that I know is Pexels or Envato Elements. Pexels is free. Envato Elements has a lot of assets that you have to pay for a monthly subscription, but I got this one from Pexels, so you can also do that as well. And then as you can see, I'm going to add a screen or color dodge, and this will remove the black background, so it's just the particles showing. Now I'm also going to throw some blur in there as well, and the blur is just to have some sort of focal distance, because it's not going to be the main focus. I don't really want a lot of it in focus, so we're just going to throw a small blur on top of that. Once we've put together everything for the background, we're going to go ahead and compose all of this, or pre-compose, and we're going to call it background. Now it's still accessible if we double click the pre-composition, but we don't need to go into there. We're just going to go ahead and drag in our 3 images that I went ahead and create onto Photoshop, but it's the 3 circular images of Elon Musk, KSI, and The Rock. Now to create this on Photoshop, it's pretty simple. I used a circle layer in order to cut out The Rock here, which you can find the ellipse tool right here if you do this drop down. And then I added a border, and then I put the image right behind the circle, took another picture of The Rock and put that over top of everything, and just had a mask. And then that gave me the image you guys see in all of these. Putting all this into position, all I'm doing is add 400 or minusing 400 to the position. You guys can do whatever math you want. So for any of my videos, we've talked about this a lot. We're going to be using keyframes, and keyframes is the bread and butter to smooth animations in After Effects, Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, basically any sort of editing platform. You're going to have to use keyframes to adjust your animations or your motions. So we're going to add a position keyframe, and we're just going to lock in that position, and then we're going to move it over to the right. And then we are also going to try to watch just to make sure it's the right motion, even though it's not the right speed right now. We're going to adjust that in a second. Now we're just going to highlight all the keyframes, and we're going to press F9. F9 is going to be your easy ease. If you've heard anything from After Effects editing, you're going to know what easy easing is. And we're also going to adjust the keyframe or the velocity just to make sure we have the motion exactly to what we like. To get to the velocity or the velocity editor, you need to highlight the keyframes that you want and then press this little graph tab up here. The way to understand the velocity graph is at the top of the peak is going to be the fastest motion. Whether it's on the top side or the bottom side, that's going to be the fastest point. You guys are going to see how I manipulate the graph to get it to what I really truly want. Now we're going back into Premiere Pro just to hit that save button, and we're also saving in After Effects as well. And we're also going to mess with the opacity here. Same kind of keyframes and also easy easing them. the simple next step is to copy these positions and the opacity onto the next few photos. So onto the second and third photo. So we're just going to speed through that part just a bit. Now the next keyframe we're going to add on here is going to be the scale keyframe, and this is just so we can add a constant growth motion. So it's going to be a little fast and then a little bit slower. I'll walk you guys through exactly what I'm thinking. So we're adding a small growth, and then we're going to keep on watching it, making sure it's, you know, what I like or very close to it. We haven't easy eased any of the keyframes yet, so we're going to go ahead and do that eventually. And we're just going to keep messing with it until we like what we see. And once we like what we see, we're going to click that F9 button and we're going to mess with our graphs. Now, if you look, I'm going to add a third keyframe to this, and this is going to be that extension keyframe that after the initial push of the picture, we're going to add a little bit more slow motion zooming to that. Eventually I settled on this keyframe, and now we're just going to also copy this and we're going to copy and paste it to the rest of the clips. Now we need to move on to the last step on this little section. We need to add a fade out opacity to the last two characters. Now, if you can see, when I add a keyframe to this section, it's still as an easy ease. So we're going to change that into a linear keyframe. Here we're going to add our motion blur. So we're going to do our toggle switches and modes, and we're going to go ahead and turn on these three motion blurs because they're moving. We want to turn those three on. All right, now we've perfected that part. We're going to add our text, and the text is going to be the name reveal of Elon Musk because he's the first character in line. So we want to do his first. So we're just going to go ahead and type in his name. Elon Musk. We're gonna leave the Musk part the same size, and we're gonna increase the size of Elon just to have that, differential aspect there. So as you can see, the Elon Musk is covering up the entire clip. So we need to make sure it fades in when it needs to fade in. So right at the end of this fade portion, we're gonna mess with the opacity. And we're gonna open both of these just so we can highlight the transform tool and mess with the opacity here. And then we're gonna also easy ease all of that. Now it's going to have a fade in, which is perfect. It's exactly what we wanted to do. So now we're finished with that little section. We're gonna pre-compose from the text layer down to the pictures because I wanna do something else. I wanna move the text and Elon Musk's picture or cutout to the center. And to do that effectively, you can also just pre-compose it. So now once that's pre-composed, we can mess with the position and we can basically change the Elon Musk and his picture to move simultaneously. Now, if you look, the keyframes on that is not perfect. It doesn't look good. So we're gonna spend some time here and we're gonna mess with the keyframes again, just to get that scale to happen right when we need it and to look a little bit smoother. All right, so one thing we noticed was the background of the picture isn't moving. So we want to make sure it's moving, it's scaling, something's happening in the background. A lot of these new YouTube videos have a lot of motion. Even my videos sometimes, there's a lot of motion happening, and that's because people's attention span is pretty low. So you need to have stuff moving, stuff popping out as much as possible. So what we did, we went into the background and we adjusted that picture of the money to have a kind of an infinite zoom effect. And it's not the regular infinite zoom. It's more or less like a small zoom throughout the entire clip. Now we're going to be at the stage where we need to pre-compose the pre-composition. And that's because we want our positions to stay exactly where it is, but we want to adjust the scale. And this is the best way I've figured out how to do this instead of, adding an extra keyframe and trying to mess with the graphs. Just pre-composing it and then mess with that positioning. And you'll see what I mean right here. It's going to add this bounce effect and then swiping up. And then we can adjust those keyframes and easy ease. All right, now what we're going to do, that swipe up is going to transition into a single picture of Elon Musk because we're talking about Elon Musk. So we're going to download a picture and we're going to cut him out. If you don't know how to do any form of cutting, I'm going to show you this briefly, but you can use the magic wand tool or, any of the selection tools really in Adobe Photoshop to cut out your person. But we're going to click this button right here. And then we're going to make sure we have cloud subject. And then we're going to hit select subject, and that's going to automatically select our subject for us. Then we're going to go ahead and click select and mask, and it should have a pretty rough cutout of him. And we can also make any adjustments that we need. And we're just going to save that to whatever file we need. And we're going to drag and drop that into After Effects. And again, we're going to add some keyframes to this to make it slide up. And we're going to easy ease all of the keyframes. And we're going to also add a motion blur to this. The motion blur just makes it have that smooth, realistic animation effect to it. basically recopying what we did with pretty much everything. We're adding position animations. We're also adding scale animations. Now, just letting you guys know, this is only half of the video. If you want to watch the full length where I go into detail, go ahead and join my Patreon in order to get the full length. And you guys can see the thumbnail ideas I had, and you guys can have early access to the next few videos, but I do appreciate you guys.